Let's dive right into this explainer on transforming conventional landscapes from fragile drains into resilient, water-storing sponges. If you've ever looked at a parched piece of land or watched muddy water rushing down a storm drain after a heavy storm, you've witnessed a massive missed opportunity. Today, we're getting highly practical. We're going to look at the exact step-by-step methods you can use to read your terrain, map its slopes, and capture all that precious water.
To truly understand the scale of what we're talking about, just take a look at this number. A single inch of rain falling on a standard 1,000 square foot roof yields a staggering 623 gallons of water. That is quite literally free energy, just waiting to be harvested. Imagine scaling that up to an entire property, or even a whole farm. We aren't just talking about a few puddles here. We're talking about tens of thousands of gallons of water that conventional designs usually just funnel away as fast as humanly possible.
So with all that potential runoff, we really have to ask ourselves, how do we flip the script? How do we take a landscape that sheds water and re-engineer it to hold it, sink it, and use it to fuel deep, resilient ecological growth? Well, it requires a major shift in how we observe, measure, and physically interact with the land.
Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with ethics and principles, move on to observing patterns, mapping topography, the keyline design system, water harvesting structures, and finally, how to start small and evolve. This journey is going to bridge our previous discussions on valleys and ridges directly into actionable, step-by-step landscape interventions.
Starting off with Section 1, Ethics and Core Principles. Before we even think about moving dirt or plotting maps, we absolutely must anchor our actions in these foundational ethics: earth care, people care, and fair share. Without these, we're kind of just moving dirt around blindly, right? These three ethics ensure our designs actively regenerate the planet, sustainably provide for communities, and share the resulting abundance. For instance, if a water harvesting system captures a massive amount of water but completely starves the ecosystem downstream, well, that violates earth care. These ethics act as the filter for literally every design decision we'll cover today.
And that brings us to the overarching framework behind all of this: permaculture. Now, this isn't just clever gardening. It's a holistic design methodology that scales all the way from a tiny backyard right up to a 600-acre farm. It's really about designing a system that works on autopilot, leveraging the natural geometry of the landscape to do the heavy lifting for you.
Which leads us into Section 2, Observing Landscape Patterns.
Our very first step out on the land is purely observational. You simply cannot design a sponge if you don't know where the water currently wants to go. Taking just 4 to 6 weeks to watch how water pools and wind funnels across your site is, without a doubt, the cheapest and most effective upgrade you can make to any design. You want to get out there and see the land during a heavy rainstorm. Where does the water concentrate? Where does it stall? Skipping this step and rushing straight to building is honestly the single most expensive mistake a designer can make.
Moving on to Section 3, Mapping Topography and Contours.
Okay, once we've observed the physical space, it's time to get practical and leverage modern digital workflows to map our topography. You can actually build a highly accurate topographical base map right from your computer. You start by pulling precise climate parameters from WeatherSpark. Then, use a digital tool like Contour Map Creator to digitally drape elevation lines over your property. By exporting that as a KML file straight into Google Earth Pro, you instantly have a 3D topographical model. You can see your high ridges, your low valleys, and exactly where gravity is pulling your water, all before you ever pick up a shovel.
All right, Section 4, the Keyline Design System.
Now let's connect those contour maps we just made to our previous lesson on valleys and ridges by diving into the hydrological engineering of keyline design. The key point is absolutely crucial here. It's essentially the spot in a valley where water stops eroding the steep hillside and begins depositing soil on a flatter slope. It's the point of inflection. And if you track the contour line that passes perfectly horizontally through that specific key point, you've found your keyline. This is your master geometry line for everything else.
As you can see illustrated here, a landscape naturally separates into dry, convex ridges and wet, concave valleys. Gravity naturally wants to pull water rapidly down off those high ridges and concentrate it forcefully into the valleys. The whole genius of keyline design is to purposefully intercept that water high up near the key point, and then gently comb it outward, pushing it back toward the dry ridges. So unlike standard farming, which usually just runs parallel to a fence line and accidentally creates trenches that speed up erosion, keyline cultivation uses precise off-contour furrows. These furrows literally comb water out of saturated valleys and spread it evenly onto the dry ridges. You're creating subsoil channels that intentionally defy the valley's natural drainage, ensuring the entire slope gets a nice, even drink of water.
Which brings us to Section 5, actually building water harvesting structures.
Now we take those contour lines and build physical structures in the dirt to safely intercept the runoff. But to ensure these structures work, their tops must be perfectly level. If they aren't dead level, water finds the low spot, concentrates there, and boom, blows out your entire earthwork. For precision, professionals use transit levels or laser levels mounted on tripods, but if you're working by hand, traditional tools are incredibly effective. You can easily construct an A-frame, literally a wooden A-shape with a plumb bob hanging down, and just step it across the landscape to mark a perfectly level contour line. Or you can use a water level, which is basically clear tubing filled with water. Since water always seeks its own level, you use the two ends of the hose to find two perfectly level spots across a long distance. And this right here brilliantly illustrates Media Luna rock structures in action. Because the tops of these rocks were set perfectly level using the surveying tools we just discussed, they effectively slow and spread overland sheet flow. Instead of washing away, the water backs up behind the rocks and spills over evenly in a broad, gentle sheet. Depending on your specific slope and local rainfall, you have a few options for creating these micro-catchments. You've got media lunas for spreading flow, V-shaped or semicircular bunds that look like little eyebrow terraces specifically designed to catch water for a single planted tree, and swales, which are shallow, level trenches that act like underground batteries, sinking massive amounts of water deep into the soil profile.
Finally, we have Section 6, Start Small and Evolve.
I know the sheer volume of principles and tools can feel overwhelming, but the beauty of this design system is that it's highly iterative. You don't have to re-engineer your entire property in a single weekend. Start with pure observation, then capture small amounts of energy. Maybe year 1 is just mapping your contours and installing a single rain barrel. Year 2, you grab an A-frame and dig one small swale. By year 5, you have a fully functional, self-watering permaculture system that evolved naturally.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to ask yourself, what is the single smallest intervention, maybe one rain barrel or one perfectly leveled swale, that you can implement to start capturing water today? The next time it rains, look out your window. Where is the water running away? And how can you turn that drain back into a sponge? Take that first small step and let the landscape guide you.